Everybody, this is Dream, and before I get started on this 8-game slate for the NBA, can you guys please smash that subscribe button and that like button? Really do appreciate it. With that said, let's get into the players themselves. So at point guard, we have Luka Doncic, top guy. Now he is one of the few one of the few teams that didn't play yesterday that's playing today, and so he does have some advantage from that perspective. And he almost nearly had three triple doubles against Memphis last season, so I expect he's going to come out, try to score a lot of points, try to get those triple doubles, and he should be nice and ready to go. Then we're going to look at Shea Alexander for Oklahoma City. Now his price point isn't super ideal here because he's come up in price quite a bit, but he is the focal point of their offense, and so he does look like a pretty good option on this particular slate. Then we have Donovan Mitchell for Cleveland. Now their other point guard got hurt, so shoot, I can't think of his name. Sorry. But he should be the focal point from the point guard perspective for the team. Garland, sorry. Anyway, so he should be the focal point, and he should be playing a lot of minutes and get a lot of opportunities to score fantasy points. Obviously, his price has already come up as a result, so that is kind of an annoyance. But overall, he's still a good option. He's a little bit, the 6x is a little bit harder today, but he still has 5x potential in this one. Then we're going to look at Tyrese Halliburton, one of my favorite plays at point guard. He's got a good matchup here against Detroit. Even yesterday, when he didn't shoot the ball well in the first half, he still managed to put together a great game overall, and he will, potentially get around 45 fantasy points again. Price is up a little bit, but I still think he's a good option on this particular slate, and he has 6x potential here. Cade Cunningham for Detroit. His price has also kind of come up some. He's kind of not somebody that you think is going to get like 6 or 7x, but he should be able to get 5x in this game. And so I think he's a pretty good GPP play, but he is a little bit risky just because of his potential, because of his price point. Tyler Hero looks like he's in a really good spot here. Assuming that Oladipo doesn't play, he will be a starter, and he will definitely be able to smash the salary, which he hasn't really moved too much to start the season. Now, just be aware, if Oladipo does play, this hurts him significantly. Reggie Jackson for the Clippers. Now, with Kawhi Leonard and John Wall both out, he should get extra minutes. Just be aware that he is still limited because he's more of a defensive player than an offensive player, but he does have opportunity in this game, and even with his price point being up, he still has some upside. Spencer Dinwiddie is in a weird position here for Dallas. At this price, he has a lot of upside, but in the first game, he really didn't show it. He didn't have a bad game, but he only got 25 fantasy points when you need him to get a little bit more than that. But he does have the potential if he gets the minutes, which he should. It's just a matter of time before he has like a 40 fantasy point game. And heck, against Memphis, a team that runs fast, he could definitely do that, especially if the injuries continue for Memphis. And then Derek White for Boston. Now, I don't love him here, but his price point is still pretty cheap, and he should be getting in the 25-minute range. And he does have potential to get, have a 30 fantasy point game, so he is like a good GPP play here. But as long as he plays the minutes, he should have opportunity to potentially get there. As you can see in the two games he's played so far this season, he is 1-2. But last season he did really well at getting to that level and similar minutes. At shooting guard, Paul George is my top guy. With Kawhi Leonard out and John Wall out, he should be the focal point for the Clippers, and he should be able to play well in this game. He should get plenty of shots, more than he got in the first game, but still, they don't necessarily super rely on him, but he's still a good option. Halliburton is a good spot here. Bane for Memphis, he's an interesting spot, assuming that the injury situation doesn't change. However, there's rumor that Brooks may come back, so if Brooks comes back, that tempers everybody on their team. Tyler Hero is another guy I already mentioned. Jalen Green for Houston. Now, there's potential that they got some guys coming back too for Houston, but if they don't, then Jalen Green is up for another potentially big game. I'm going to mention Benedict Mathurin. I don't necessarily love him in this matchup, and he is a little bit risky because he's just 2 games in, but overall, he's played really good in those 2 games, and so it remains to be seen if he can continue to do that. His price point has kind of come up some though, so he's a little less obvious here, but he's still in an interesting spot. Karis LeVert, he should have a lot of opportunity in this game. Unfortunately, just like the other Cavs I've already mentioned, his price point has already come up to offset the value that he would normally get with the injury, but overall, he's still a decent option. John Conchar for Memphis, he's in a similar situation. If Brooks comes back, then you're not going to want to roster him. But if Brooks doesn't come back, then he's definitely going to be in play again. He's been really good to start the season. As small forward, we have Jason Tatum for Boston, who's played extremely well so far this season. And I suspect that he's going to have opportunity to do so again here. Now, this game is a little bit tougher for him because his price point has come up, which we expected to happen, but he's still a good option overall on the slate. Buddy Hield is another guy I really like here. He's been a bit shaky to start the season, and he does have a tendency to do that, but his price point is still pretty low, and so I do like him as a contrarian option. Then we're going to look at Michael Porter. Now, the problem with Michael Porter is sometimes he'll have 15-point games, and so you do have to be aware of that. But he does have boomer bust mentality, kind of, so he does have upside in this matchup. And as you can see in the first two games, unfortunately his price came up a little bit, which is annoying, but overall he's still a pretty decent option here. Sadiq Bey for Detroit is in a good spot against Indiana. As long as Turner doesn't play, he seems like a pretty safe option. His first game wasn't ideal against Orlando, but he did really good against the Knicks, and I suspect he's going to have another opportunity. He should get plenty of minutes, and so it's just a matter of him taking advantage of those minutes. Then Norman Powell for the Clippers. If he does end up being the starter, which it looks like he will be, but just make sure he is, he's going to be a great option on this slate. Then CD Osman for Cleveland. Now, he's a very boomer bust option. He's a Hail Mary play, cheap play. He should get plenty of minutes, but it's just a matter of if he can actually put together the minutes to get a good fantasy point outing or not. He is very streaky, so you have to be aware of that. At power forward, we have Giannis, who his price pretty high, obviously, but last year against Memphis, or against Houston rather, he had 79.3 fantasy points in the one game against them. I'm not saying he's going to do that again, but he definitely smashed them last year, and he started the season off pretty good. He will play quite a few minutes. You know, they do a little bit of different things with minutes with him, so sometimes he's in the game against second units and stuff like that, which is definitely nice, especially in this situation. Evan Mobley for Cleveland looks like he's in a pretty good spot here. He had a pretty good first game, getting 26 fantasy points. His price has come up slightly, but he should still get opportunity. We do need him to get more rebounds, though, but he does have the capacity to do so, so we'll just have to see how he does. There is a little bit of a logjam in the power forward position in Cleveland, but overall I still like him as a top-tier option. Bobby Portis is going to be a annoying player to try to roster, but he's still cheap enough where if maybe he draws a start today, I doubt it, but if he does, he would be a great option. But if he doesn't start, then he's somebody to take a look at as a value option off the bench. Then I'm going to mention Bojan Bogdanovic. He has had 2 good games so far. His price point still hasn't really come up, which I was expecting it to be a little bit higher after his first 2 games. But overall, he's in a good spot here against Indiana, and he should be able to continue to get 26 to 35 minutes, which is what he got in the first 2 games. And he should be able to score points, which is something he's good at. He's a pretty consistent player, so I do like him in this matchup. Then we're going to look at Al Horford, and I really just have to mention this guy because if I don't mention him, he's going to go for 40. His price point is still too good, and he's going to be the starter, and he's going to get the minutes. It's just a matter of him getting the rebounds and putbacks and stuff that he normally gets, and even a block or 2. Against Orlando, he should have some opportunity. And like I said, if I don't include him in this write-up, he's probably going to go off, so who knows. Then we got some value plays here. Isaiah Jackson for Indiana. Now, he's a little bit risky because he's only going to play about 15 minutes unless the other guy's out for them. But if he does start or something, then he'd be a must-play. But as he sits, he's a little bit of a risk because of his minutes limit, but he does have a lot of upside. Then Terry Taylor, who should start, assuming that the injury situation doesn't change in Indiana. He's in a similar position. He doesn't get enough minutes necessarily, but he's still really cheap here on DraftKings, so he has some upside as a result. At the center position, we have Jokic for Denver, whose price is actually pretty decent. And I went back to last season, I looked through, and I noticed that in every back-to-back game, he really didn't have a letdown from the game before. He definitely has triple-double potential in this one. The only real risk with him is foul situation. Oklahoma City is gonna, they're kind of a guard-heavy team, so I don't know exactly how the minutes are gonna shake out for him, but overall, he's in a good spot here, and there's really not much reason for him not to smash here. Not to mention his price actually came down a little bit from yesterday. Probably due to the first game against Utah, who's usually a slow team. So I do think he's in a good spot here to potentially have a smash game. Then Pascal Siakam. Now, obviously, he had an absolute monster game yesterday against Brooklyn. He's been good so far this season. Miami's a little bit of a tougher game. He's going to have to face Bam, who's a good defensive center. But overall, I still think he's in a good spot. His price has come up some, but it's still a pretty decent price. And so I do like him here. The next guy that I'm going to mention is Bam Adebayo. Bam has been pretty good so far. He had one bad game to start the season when he got in some foul trouble. But he should get plenty of minutes. And so I do like him in this matchup against Toronto, which he's going to have to be a banger in order to for the Heat to win. And so I do look for him as a decent option. Ivica Zubac, he had a really good first game, but he's a very streaky player. Some games he plays a lot of minutes, sometimes he doesn't. And the Clippers are kind of all over the map with that kind of stuff. And so I don't necessarily like rostering him, but he is somebody who had a good game the first game, so he may get some roster results as a result of that. Alperen Sengun has started the season off extremely well, even though he's only playing 25 or so minutes. He has some upside of this matchup, but he is a little bit risky because of his minutes. And then Santi Aldama for Memphis. He's another guy. It's really imperative that Dylan Brooks is out for him to really pay off here. But his price point's still pretty good. Not as ideal as the first day, but still a decent price. And so if he does play and Brooks is out, then that will be a good option. So that's what I have for the DraftKings matchups here. Overall, I think it's a really pretty good slate. I like this size of the slate, 8 games, a lot better than some of the 11 or 12 game slates we've had. Even though I've cashed every day, I still like a smaller slate like this, 8 games, about the perfect slate size. So with that said, thank you guys for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. And have a nice day, guys.